Well, what are the main things I think you can do? I mean, when driving in monsoons, the biggest thing I think is it never rains here. So when it rains, the streets go from nice and dry to slick. It's not on a doorknob. I mean, it is really, all that oil comes up. I think the lighter the flow of rain, actually, the more slick the streets are going to be, because that just kind of brings oil up to the surface, and it's braking that's an issue.
Well, yesterday's rain, you're exactly right. Yesterday's rain was perfect. I think it was enough. Not only do we want to lift the water up and we just get a little sprinkle, that's dangerous. Like you said, that's slippery. But we want the downpour. It's going to lift that oil up and get it off the streets.
Now, I was just thinking, our listeners in Seattle, they've got to be laughing at us.
They are laughing at us. We have no idea.
But yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing is how do I prepare? It happens so fast. It just comes out of nowhere at times.
Well, you're just going about your normal day and driving. I think the key is to slow down, give yourself a lot more room, because when you hit the brakes, know that pavement is slick. Some people have traction control in their car. Maybe it's a good time to hit the traction control button, leave it on when you're driving in the rain. I think it resets.
No, don't hit the button, because you'll turn it off.
You turn it off.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, you want to leave the traction control alone. Yeah, slow down. And these are all the ways that should be driving in the rain to be extra cautious are also things that are going to help you get good fuel mileage when it's not raining.
So are you guys suggesting I tell my neighbors to give it a little 50-foot run before they hit the garage, get the water hose and do a practice ABS run? Yeah.
Well, actually, that is not a bad idea, because most people have no idea. I mean, it's rare that you get into a panic stop situation. You have no idea how your car is going to react, and ABS is newer to some. They're not used to driving a vehicle with ABS. It's maybe not a bad idea to go find a big mall parking lot.
Full of water, nice and slippery.
6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. Get going 40 miles an hour, maybe 88 miles an hour like Back to the Future, and just nail the brakes. And with ABS, you want to plant your foot firmly on the brakes and just hold on.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we get those clients that come in for service at our shops, and they say, hey, I had this brake pedal just felt like it was just going up and down and up and down.
Well, it was.
And it was, yeah.
And that's
it's an ABS stop.
Yeah, in ABS, a lot of people think automatic braking system. It's anti-lock braking system. But it does automatically, doesn't apply the brakes, but it's going to pulsate rapidly. I mean, super fast. On and off of the brakes to avoid that skid control.
In the old days, they taught us to do that with our foot. Give it gas, back off, hit the brake, back off. But now it does it for you. So really, you just want to plant your foot firmly on that brake and let the ABS system do what it's designed to do. People tend not to trust it when they hit the brakes.
Well, yeah, people will let off. I let off. I had to pump it again. No, the pump. There's a pump that's doing the pumping for you. Just hold your foot, steer the wheel, just keep straight. And it might even feel like it's pushing your foot off the pedal. The pedal's going to start coming up. Just hang on to the brake, keep your foot down, stay calm if you got to get in a panic stop situation.
That's right. So, if your ABS light is on, period, especially this time of year. Again, we're not up in Seattle where we're getting torrential downpours, right? But if your ABS light is on currently, it may be something to look at. And, Matt, if your ABS light is on, we still have still have our base braking, don't we? Yeah.
There's the two lights. You're going to have your red brake light. Red, like any other symbol, is typically stop, danger, problem, something like that. Yellow is warning, and that's why the ABS light is yellow. When your ABS fails, it's just going to revert back to operating like a car that doesn't have ABS.
So it's been disabled. Your brakes are going to work just fine, other than the safety feature of the ABS has now been disabled.
Right. Well, when I worked for Porsche, when I worked on the race team, we had anti-lock brakes on the car, and the drivers could actually turn that system on and off. Sometimes they really wanted it, but sometimes it didn't give them the control that they wanted. And I'm just talking on dry pavement even. So
it's amazing. Years ago we had one or two different shadings of color, right? Now it's a kaleidoscope. These poor consumers, my goodness, all these shades of
lights up like
yellow.
A Christmas tree.
Well, and one of the other things, besides just driving in the rain and your normal everyday driving, the thing that we need to remind people about too is crossing a flooded street, or even a puddle, or worst case, trying to cross a flooded wash or something with active water flowing. There was a story that Jill just did about the gentleman in Lake Havasu who unfortunately died as a result of trying to cross a flooded wash, I believe it was. And we've got a link to that on our Facebook page. If you'd like to check us out or go like us on Facebook or participate with us, go to bumpertobumperradio.com and hit the Facebook link.
Well, if you pull up to a wash and you're thinking, do I go or don't I go, just picture yourself on the 5 o'clock news, because it's almost inevitable. If you're thinking about it, chances are you shouldn't be crossing it.
We've said it before. Don't be that guy.
That's right. And the thing about it, too, is we all agree we're not just going to just drive through this massive flood, but I think folks need to really prepare themselves for areas of town that just may all of a sudden flash flood.
Well, not only that, Dave, but parking lots. My wife one time parked her car in a parking lot and came out, and there's water up to the door sills. So you need to be cautious. Maybe if your parking lot's got a low-lying area, you might find not fun.
Now, I mentioned before the break, Fiat's going head-to-head with Starbucks. What can you tell me about that, Matt?
I can tell you I probably should have had a cup of coffee because I'm yawning over here. I saw that, and I just I was just thinking, what are they going to come up with next? It's pretty cool, I guess. But could you imagine? I can just see it now. I'm looking up parts. We have a car needs an alternator, and we get it, and it's wrong. And oh, you have the coffee maker option. That's a special alternator.
Frappuccino edition.
The Italians are always looking for something to put them ahead of the next guy.
I tell you that Fiat is a hot seller.
Is a hot seller.
Yes.
Well, this is going to be the 2013 model, and it's the 500, which is kind of like a Mini Cooper type of size car.
Yeah, forget the rolls with Grey Poupon. We've now got the...
Well, they went with Lavazza. I'm really happy. That's my favorite brand, that they would go Lavazza. That's great coffee.
I'm going to, in thinking about coffee and Tony and Fiat, I'm going to figure out a way to put a Keurig K-Cup machine in the back of my Festiva. I think that would work.
Will that change the name of your car if it's got
the Keurig edition?
Let's go with Dave in Chandler in a 1991 F250. Go ahead, Dave. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hi, Dave, Matt, Frank. How you doing?
Great, thank you.
Listen, you've already got the make model stuff. When I start up the truck and it idles good, I start down the road, I've got plenty of power. Within 3 to 4 minutes, once it heats up, if I have to kick it into passing gear or something like that, it just holds back, and it sounds like it's sucking air or something, but there is no power whatsoever. Yet if I park it in the driveway and put it in neutral or in park, I can rev it up, and I've got all kinds of power. The second I drop it into gear and I put my foot on the brake and step on it, it just goes.
What engine is in your F-150?
It's got the 460 engine.
So that's going to be a C6 transmission. Probably it's kind of borderline as far as what transmission's in there. But you're driving along, everything works just fine. You go to get after it to pass somebody, and it bogs down?
It's nothing. Yeah, even if I just go over overpasses, I can be going down the freeway, and I can be doing 65. By the time I get over the freeway, I'm doing 35.
Now, what about if you're just on a flat surface, just cruising along, and you want to pass some, or just accelerate, go wide open throttle? I'm thinking catalytic converter is a classic because it makes that exhaust sound like it's
yeah,
plugged
it's almost
up,
like a sucking sound or a hum. It's just
Dave, on this F250, is your check engine light on at all?
Yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't on. It'll come on like 4 or 5 minutes after I'm driving or 6 miles down the road. But even this morning when my son and I went out and I let my son try it, the engine light wasn't on, and I says, now kick it into passing gear and see what, and it just, and no engine light or anything came on.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I think that catalytic converter, you can almost take that to the bank. It sounds pretty.
It sounds like it, but also too that's in 1991, so that's the first generation of onboard diagnostics. So that is not always going to leave the light on. It's a little bit different diagnosis to go in there. It's not as simple as just plugging in and grabbing a code. But it's definitely going to leave, like I say, the fingerprint, or it's going to leave the evidence behind for someone to go look. But it certainly sounds like a catalytic converter. And one of the great shops in Chandler is ADS, Automotive Diagnostics Specialist, I-10 and Chandler Boulevard. So if you don't have a shop, that's a great one to take care of. And that's no big deal for them. That's a piece of cake.
Right. Well, we appreciate the call, Dave. And you know what? Today is Dave Day. Looks like we've got Dave on a 2003 Crown Victoria. Go ahead, Dave. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Good day, gentlemen. I appreciate your show, and I always like listening to what you have going on. Recently, I'm just finding out I'm getting a really bad vibration or front end shake out of my stereo system. I don't know what the heck it is. Took it to my mechanic. He replaced a ball joint and a sway bar, And it seems like the problem has gotten a little bit worse. It starts about 10, 15 miles per hour on the road. And as you get on the highway, it just really shifts like crazy.
So is it shaking at 15 miles per hour? Is it like a slower RPM shake, like the speed of the tires, consistent with that? I'm thinking we've got a bad separated tire.
Well, yeah, because you normally don't. I mean, a low speed, like a 15-mile-an-hour wobble or vibration, is a classic tire. I mean, it's one thing I'd be checking is tire balance. We need to look at that. You know, I'm sure when they did the ball joint, they did an alignment. And you know, the Crown Vics. Remember the old Jeeps that we call it the death shake. The thing starts shaking because the caster. It's like picture a caster wheel on your grocery cart. You get going fast and that thing's shaking really bad. I don't think on a Crown Vic though you can get the caster that far to whack to create a high speed shake like that. But it wouldn't be at low speed. It's got to be a tire.
Right. At 15 miles, there's a bubble in one of the tires. So I think if you rotated the tires, you would feel the vibration change. Maybe it's in the front of the car, or the rear car, to kind of hone in on that. But they're going to see that pretty quickly.
And we are going to take Scotty next. Scotty has a 2010 Honda, it looks like. What can we do for you today, Scotty?
Hi, I have this Honda that I tow behind a motorhome, and every time I land, I stop my vehicle and try to start the Honda, it's dead. And I've been told to take out the fuse, the 32 fuse. I've done that. I've turned off everything that will run, and I get this dead battery.
Is there some sort of plug that connects so the lights are the same on the Honda as they are on the motorhome?
Yes.
You know what?
I hook up the tow bar and the connector from the motorhome back to the Honda.
You know, it's funny, we were talking at breakfast one day this week, Dave and a group of guys,
towing
about towing Hondas and how there were certain year CRVs that were the best ones to get because they towed well. But
not mine.
Well, and I, you know what I'm thinking, Dave, is the alarm going off while she's driving, and it's killing the battery. I mean, you say every time you land, and I'm assuming that means every time you stop, every couple, 300, 400 miles or something like that?
Right,
right. And then are you starting that also just to drive it, or because you've been told to do that to lubricate the transmission?
No. If I even go 50 miles, it goes dead. And the thing
weird.
is, because it's an automatic, you know, once I throw it up there and park to turn my engine over, I can't do anything with the Honda because everything is dead. I can't open up my back.
What are you doing? Are you jump starting it to get it going again, or is it jump start?
That's what I've had to do. Actually, one thing that I tried that worked for a while was one of those solars that you put in the window and hook it into the cigarette lighter.
Scotty,
Yeah.
this is going to be. It's going to be interesting. Would you please go to bumpertobumperradio.com and send Dave and I an email because we want to follow up with you. I don't even know what I think. I don't know if it has anything to do with the towing or not. I mean, it's really that's a strange one. We're gonna find out for you for sure.
Up first this segment, we've got Jim with a 98 Saturn. Go ahead, Jim. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Yeah, it's actually a 99. I'm having a dispute with the smog inspection station. There's two lights on this car. There's one that says service engine soon. There's another one with a wrench that says service engine. The service engine soon light, this thing comes on and off, over the months I drive. It's just my commuter car. And it idles a little rough at idle. It runs fine other than that. If the light just shuts off, will they pass that thing, or do I got to turn the key on and off 5 times and throw salt over my shoulder to cancel that light, or what's the deal with that?
Some of that, too.
Although salt over the shoulder does work very, very well, but at the emission stations, it won't do anything for you. Basically,
Yeah.
if that service engine soon light or check engine light is on, and I know you mentioned 2 lights. Sometimes there's a maintenance type of light, which is actually different than like a check engine light.
That's the one that's on. It's the one that tells you need service,
Well, but the service engine soon kind of evolved in then to check engine, and really it almost doesn't matter which light it is because that's a 99. That's what we kind of call plug and play in the shop. They're not sniffing the tailpipe. They're not checking equipment. They're basically plugging in. So probably on your failed sheet, it says that there's a code that...
Yeah, it said it was missing on the number one cylinder.
Okay, so you've got a cylinder number 1 misfire. So your code that was stored was probably a P0301, number 1 misfire. Not too terribly hard, probably in the Saturn, to put a set of spark plugs in if you wanted to try that yourself. Certainly an inexpensive guess. But not just having the check engine light off is good enough. They know that people want to go out and they want to cheat. They want to go get the little handy-dandy machine, clear the code, and run right back through, but that doesn't fly.
These cars, they tell on themselves in that it won't run what we call the readiness monitors. And sometimes you go to an auto shop and they may fix a check engine light, but the car is self-testing. And for it to pass its own tests, it's got to reset all those readiness monitors. It says we ran a test on the evaporative emission system and everything tests fine. And we ran a test on the transmission and everything tests fine. So,
the other thing, Jim, too, is not only getting through emissions, it sounds like this probably won't be a real expensive repair, but as your commuter car, you're probably going to save quite a bit on gas.
like that little car you drive that you can't cross.
Priscilla, I'm working on the Keurig.
Well, and the other thing, too, with a misfire, you're going to ruin the catalytic converter. So an inexpensive and simple maintenance item, really.
When in doubt, Jim, just get the pepper over the right shoulder. That works sometimes.
Well, let's go with Brad in Goodyear on a 2007 Chevrolet Tahoe. Go ahead, Brad. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Matt and Dave, thanks for taking the call. Listen all the time. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I'm having a problem. I've got a fleet, actually, of 07 Tahoes, and we use them to tow all the time. We've got about 8,000-pound trailers, and one of the trailers was built incorrectly, and it went through a pretty hefty 360 on the highway. The trailer completely toppled over, and there was some damage to the Tahoe, but not too much to the damage on the body. It was mainly all electrical. And I'm trying to find out more dispute. The insurance is looking for a diagnostic test. They didn't accept what the auto mechanics did. They said it's not connected to what the trailer did, and it was actually at 3 shops prior to when we went out with the trailer that one day.
But what's the problem? What's the symptom that you're experiencing?
After the accident, when the plug for the hitch, for the brake lights and everything came out, the dashboard went completely down, so all my electronics there. On this particular truck, we've got a doubled-in radio, and then we've also got some TVs, and then also the battery went dead, and we had to replace it with a whole new battery. So all the electronics completely went down in it, and the insurance company is basically saying that it's not related to the accident whatsoever.
Okay, so the problem is solved and fixed. It's just a dispute over the billing.
Pretty much. I mean, we're still working. We haven't gotten the radio fixed at all yet. And then the only thing I've gotten fixed so far was just the upper cluster for the dashboard running. And then they did the realignment and the balance on the tires. There were brand new tires and everything. They took care of all of that.
Okay.
But they're looking for a diagnostic test to tie it in. And I'm wondering if there is such a thing that would say, that came from the trailer, plug actually coming out or smashing at something.
It's going to be a stretch to try and, a cluster repair, try and tie that to the electrics in the back of the car. The only thing I could see is when something goes out and the communication line goes down between modules, that can cause all kinds of problems. But to try and connect a dashboard cluster issue and repair to wiring getting torn on the back of the vehicle.
I would think whoever fixed it would be able to write up. I mean, their story, it should all connect. I think on that one, too, you just need to get everything fixed. And then when it's all fixed, you're going to need to sit down and review that, maybe get a second opinion, have somebody look at it. But there's no magic test, and I hope the insurance company's not thinking just plug it in. It's going to tell us what the problem was, because that's just not the case.
Doesn't work that way.
It's like an EKG machine. You have to know what you're reading, not just...
Well, thanks for the call, Brad. Let's go with John. Looks like in Avondale on a 2006 GMC van. Go ahead. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hey guys. Hey, this is my work van. So I drive it all day. I got brand new tires on the vehicle. When I'm going down the road, it sounds like I got a prop engine running in the front of the truck. The tires. they're just humming really bad. People say, "What are you in an airplane?" When I'm on my phone. If I go like on a ramp going left, as soon as I turn just a little bit left, the noise goes away completely.
I don't think it's related to the tires.
Dave's over here wishing he had his Fletch clip up,
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all ball bearings.
It's all ball bearings these days. Maybe you need a refresher course.
I'm thinking wheel bearing, and that's classic. They're kind of growly or noisy. And if you
It's a real loud hum, like a prop engine,
Yeah, it's a wheel bearing, and it's not related to the tires, although it may be coincidental or right about the same time. When you swerve to one way or the other, if you swerve to the right, and I forget which way you said,
you're going to load the left.
You're going to load the left, and if
noisy.
it's the left wheel bearing, the noise will be the same or get worse. When you swerve to the right, it's going to load the other way, and noise will go away.
And it unloads one side and loads the other. So that's a classic symptom of a wheel bearing failure.
We lost him over there. He's over there texting and tweeting and everything else. So
Frank's going to have carpal tunnel of the thumbs or whatever happens to
John with the 06 GMC van. You definitely have. It sounds like a hub bearing. Get both sides done if you can. Do them in pairs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's go with Dale in Ahwatukee on a 2001 F-150. Go ahead, Dale. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Oh, hey, this is Dale. Actually, it was a 91 F-150, and I just wanted to thank you guys very much. You really helped me out a lot. It's a great public service you're doing. You saved me a ton of money in diagnostic fees. I mean, the simple problem was if the truck would start in the morning, it would be fine all day, but it's 50-50 chance whether it would start or not. You guys told me, change the coil. I did. And, hey, everything's great. I just called to say thank you, guys. You saved me a ton of money, a ton of headache, and I really appreciate your show.
Dale, if you could see the studio right now, we're full of smiles. We really appreciate the phone call. We're so happy we could help you. I'm happy we got lucky.
Wait a minute. Dale, is that you out in front of the studio with the flag? Is that...
No, not that. I just wanted to give you guys a pat on the back.
Thank you.
Great job, guys. Great job. And thanks for the community service you're doing.
You bet. The fact or fiction for today, I think we actually answered in our earlier segment, but I don't think Matt was paying attention, so I don't think he really knows the answer. When my ABS light is on, I should not be concerned. The ABS light on the dashboard, it's a little yellow one. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Matt.
No, but I saw the 0 miles till empty the other day.
I see that yellow light on a regular basis. Actually, we won't let you answer. We'll have Frank answer. What do you think, Frank? Fact or fiction? My ABS light is on. I should not be concerned.
Well, the ABS light, I tell you.
No, Frank. One word.
One word. Fact or fiction? Fishing? Are we fishing? What are we doing? Fiction. You know what? I want to say that is definitely a concern. It is a fact.
It is a fact.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it? All right. How about you, Matt?
I would agree. It's something to be concerned about. But again, it's a yellow light. It's not the end of the world. We're talking about monsoon. You want to have your equipment working properly. You want to have your brakes working well. So something should be checked out. But again, not the end of the world.
We're going to go with Mike on a 2010 Grand Cherokee. Go ahead, Mike. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Morning, gentlemen. Okay, 2 issues. Downshifting, as soon as it hits first gear, get a big clunk from the drive shaft. Almost feels like it's going to come through the bottom of the Jeep. It's non-four-wheel drive.
Is this a V6 model or a...
No, it is a 5.7 Hemi.
5.7, okay.
And the second one is, it sounds like a header gasket leak in the front, but it doesn't have headers. It's bone stock.
Okay. Well, it probably, if it sounds like an exhaust leak, that's probably what it is, whether there's a header there or not. Is it more in the morning when you first start it up and it goes away as the vehicle warms up?
No, it's actually on a continuous basis, and it only has 47,000 miles on this thing.
Well, with the Hemi, it probably actually, it doesn't have aftermarket, quote, headers, but a lot of those came with a header-style exhaust, but... it needs to be test driven. I mean, somebody at transmission shop, general repair shop, should be driving this. Santan, that's right up Frank's alley,
right down the street.
Yeah, we would definitely want to test drive. That it could be a combination of an exhaust leak or I got a pinpoint.
Right now, as far as the transmission goes, on that transmission, it's going to have a relearn possibility to it, or you can reset the shift to DAPS and perform a relearn on it, and a lot of times with a Chrysler transmission, that'll clear up that downshift clunk that you're experiencing. So
we're up with Dawn next. Dawn's calling on her 2005 Volvo. What can we do for you today, Dawn?
Well, I'm having some air conditioning issues, and they're a little odd. When I'm driving somewhere between 35 and 45 miles an hour, after about, I'd say 5 or 10 minutes, the air conditioning stops running cool. It just, you can feel the hot, muggy air coming through. However, I don't have this issue if I'm driving on the highway. If I take a trip to Flagstaff, the air conditioning works perfect the whole way. I took it to a shop, and they looked at it. The fluid was fine. There was no leaks. So they're telling me they think it's a software issue, and they wanted to charge me $250 to upgrade the software, to which I promptly left trying to figure out if that's the right thing to do.
Well, I know software updates, that's a lot of times having the latest, your computer at home says, hey, there's updates available for your computer, and it updates. Your computer is connected to the internet. Now, your vehicle, sometimes the software, they find a deficiency in the software, an issue, or something a learned value that goes wrong, and so a lot of times they will start with going ahead and putting the newest software in the computer to get things running right.
Right, but is this an intermittent problem, or is it consistently like that all the time no matter what?
Well, it just started a couple of months ago, so that's where I was questioning the software issue, but it's kind of intermittent. If I'm driving on a slow street, I don't have the problem. If I'm driving, let's say, 55 or over, I don't have a problem. It's really at this one particular speed that my car seems to not want to run the air conditioning.
I think it sounds pretty simple, and it's an airflow issue is what I'm willing to bet, because when you're driving down the freeway, you have a lot of air flowing over the radiator and the condenser, and it needs to get the heat off the air conditioning system in order for it to work right. When you're in traffic, the car relies on an electronic cooling fan or a mechanical fan connected to the engine to move that air. So it sounds like that fan is failing.
I'm gonna. The one thing she didn't say: how does it work at a stoplight when the car's not moving at all?
For the first, I want to say 10 or 15 minutes in traffic, it works fine.
So it works fine at a stoplight
for 10 or 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a cooling fan issue. We probably have a cooling fan itself, or we probably have maybe a cooling fan control issue, which could be a software
part
thing,
of the software update. I could see that being part of that.
Maybe time for another try at another shop. Go back if you're confident with those people or comfortable with them, and you have a relationship. Go back, talk to them a little bit more, describe the symptoms, maybe have them go on a test drive with you. If you're not comfortable there anymore.
We got a couple of great Volvo shops. We got Tanner Motors, who's at Coulter and 7th Street. They're great for that. They can do all the Volvo programming if that's what it needs. But maybe follow up with Chris up there. Be a good place to start. Volvo's kind of a unique breed, as far as people working on it.
Yeah, definitely. So great call, Don. Thank you. We appreciate you listening. Appreciate the call. We're going to go with Ken in Avondale on a 1997 Jeep Cherokee. What can we do for you, Ken?
Hi, how you guys doing?
Good.
Okay, yesterday afternoon my wife was coming home from work, came up to a stoplight, and stalled. So she said to kind of crank over a few times before it started. So when she put it in gear, it stalled again. So she did the same thing, started, she got home. So I was home, so I let it sit for about an hour. I went out there and had to crank it over for, I'd say, probably about 10 seconds before it caught. And then as soon as I put it in drive, it stalled. So I tried to crank it over again. Wouldn't start. So I cycled the fuel pump twice, and then third time, I started it. Started, put it in drive, stalled again.
Okay, so we have a stalling problem. You started up, stall, started up, stall constantly?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And it just started yesterday.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're cycling the fuel pump and you can do that, like you said, probably when I think you said you cycle the fuel pump, that means turn the key on, turn the key off, turn the key on, turn the key off. And when we do that, we're just priming the fuel system. It's probably bleeding down through a bad pump or a weak pump.
That's
or regulator
right. And a
issue.
fuel pressure test, also a volume test, can really narrow down the potential issue with the fuel delivery.
Yeah, it sounds like something that's going to need diagnosis. Normal activity for a shop, just get in. There's something like that. It's a lot of times a simple fix, but it's not simple for the everyday driver to work on. So
correct.
A lot of high-tech equipment and stuff.
Well, they're going to scan it too. I mean, the fuel pump, if you get a bad crank angle sensor on that Grand Cherokee. The fuel pump is not going to work right. So there's some other things that come into play as well.
And they might even need to have it overnight so they can experience it first thing in the morning too.